Hey everyone, welcome back to Learning Bridge. I hope you guys are doing good and staying safe. So I am back with another amazing and really interesting video for all the aspiring data professionals and my lovely data community. And today I am going to talk about something serious and very important for everyone who want to crack the interviews, especially related to the data engineer role. And the topic is worst interview mistakes made by the data engineers in the interviews. So this is something which I thought really important to share based on my past interview experiences as well, and not just the past, like whatever I have seen from the very beginning of my career in different interviews. And also I have interviewed a lot of candidates like aspiring data engineers, so I know as a fresher what kind of mistakes they make, and even the mid-senior experienced guy or the experienced guy, what kind of mistakes we can do in general in our data engineering interviews, and that will definitely minimize our chances to crack our dream job. So yes, today I will be talking about those top 10 worst interview mistakes made by us, so that I can help you all to crack your interviews and you won't be repeating these mistakes in the interviews. So make sure to watch this video till the very end. It will be really helpful for each and everyone, and if you find it informative, make sure to give a like in big numbers and share this video with your fellow friends to help them for their interview preparation. And also, if you are new to my channel and liking this kind of content related to data, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and press the notification icon. And guys, whenever I talk about the data engineering and cracking the interviews at top tech companies for the data engineer role, one thing is really important, that is the exposure and experience of real world projects. But the sad reality with the data engineering is that nothing as such available over the internet, but there is one amazing platform named as Project Pro which can help you in this journey and will help you to get the exposure of real world data engineering projects. So Project Pro has created a very enriched repository of verified and end-to-end solved data projects. So far 250 plus end-to-end solved projects have already been created on the Project Pro platform, and 3000 plus free and reusable content for you which you can use anytime, anywhere. More than 100k plus members already shown their trust on the Project Pro platform, and the beauty is all these end-to-end solved projects have actually been created by the industry professionals as well, who are working in top tech companies like Netflix, Walmart, Microsoft, Uber, Amazon, Facebook, and many other top tech companies. And why Project Pro platform? So first thing is you will be getting end-to-end implemented projects here, completely solved, verified and tested. And second thing, complete support and guidance will be provided for every project, like the guided videos, sessions from the experts, mentors, documentation, labs, everything will be provided to you. And these projects are actually a real world use cases which different companies are trying to solve. So you can solve these projects and you can mention these projects in your portfolio and resume, and you will get shortlisted for top tech companies for sure. And also everything is reusable here, including the code, documentations, and also I have provided a secret link in the video description. You can use that one to get exclusive offers on Project Pro platform. It's very easy to use, and the best thing is that you can customize your learning path and even your projects based on your understanding and current skill sets. So after logging from here, you will be landed on this home page. Here you can see all the details, so you can come here in this project path, and let's say you want to create projects or you want to work on projects related to big data only. Provide all the details according to your designation, your skill set, your profile. You will be getting suggested list of projects which you should work based on your skill set, and that's the beauty of this customization path, and that's how you can improve your learning. So link is in the description, check it right now, enroll yourself on the Project Pro platform and work on real world projects. So the first mistake is too much confusion about the data structures and algorithm while preparing the things, and also the poor coding standards during the coding round and problem solving rounds. So in my previous videos also I have mentioned this thing, that for the data engineers you don't need to be pro coder at all, right? Not too much into the competitive programming or anything like that. Even if you are good with your DSA fundamentals and have practiced good amount of questions till easy, medium level, this is good enough, right, to crack any of the interview related to the data engineering profile. Please don't waste your time or don't invest your too much of time like to practice more and more about the coding, because the big data understanding and designing skill is something which will help you to crack the interviews, not too much of the coding part. And another point is poor coding style and standards, and this kind of mistake I have also made in the starting period of my career. As soon as I listen a problem, quickly I will jump onto the solution, right? Very rough style of writing the code, not proper variable naming, function naming, not modularizing the code, no proper commenting, right? No edge cases run or the dry runs, not taking care of the test cases, not taking care of the base conditions. So these are the very poor coding standards and style as well. So whenever you talk about good and well established product based companies, and including the FAANG as well, so they precisely focus on your coding style and coding standards as well, because narrating your approach is completely fine, but when it comes to the coding part, right, this is the best practice everybody wants to follow in the company, so that your code is readable and understandable to others as well. So if you are just using very vague variable names, function names, and just functional programming ad hoc statements, right, not commenting anything, that will definitely create a very negative impact, and one of the most common interview mistake as well. Now talking about the second mistake, mentioning fake skills in your resume just to get shortlisted for the interviews. And this mistake is something for which I don't even have any clear answer. I have seen people doing it and I have no clue that what is the actual need of it. Just for the sake of the interviews, why someone will put the fake skills, right? Fake skills, I mean, let's say you just know any particular framework or anything, just little bit, 10-20% of it, is still you are mentioning it in your resume, then that is completely a bad practice. Don't do that. Let's say out of 10 skills which were mentioned in the job description, you know only 4 and 5, that is like sufficient enough. You can mention it in your resume, because mentioning fake skills definitely decrease your chances for the further interview rounds. Let's say in an interview, interviewer started focusing on those skills, right, which you mentioned in your resume, and started asking questions around that, then probably you won't be able to answer it because you just mentioned it for the sake of shortlisting. So please don't do that. I have seen people doing these kind of mistakes, and you will be disappointed in the interview rounds when you will get rejected. And also similarly, I'll explain more and more mistakes, but if you feel you also are able to relate with these kind of interview mistakes, make sure to put it in the comment section. I would like to see that what kind of mistakes you have made so far, so that we can also learn from your mistakes, and also how did you improve it and how did you learn. Third crucial mistake is less understanding of the architecture and exact functionalities benchmarking of different big data frameworks like Hadoop, Hive, Spark, Flink. When we talk about the typical data engineering interviews, right, you're starting one round and max to max 2 technical rounds. Those will be dependent on the problem solving, SQL, these things. But after that, whatever rounds will be there, they will be completely focused on your designing skills, your core strength or core technical in-depth knowledge about these frameworks, right, their architecture, their functionalities. So I have seen this thing, right, many aspiring data engineers, they know how to use Spark, right, like how to code into it, how to create the pipeline, but they don't deep dive into the like working architecture and the fundamentals, building blocks, components of any of the big data framework. And honestly speaking, in the big data space, these things will play a very important role, because writing a pipeline and creating a pipeline is not going to be a big deal, but writing a scalable, optimized data pipeline is definitely a big deal. And for that, you need to understand the working architectures of these frameworks really well. Even in your interviews, the interviewers will majorly focus on how you can optimize a Spark application. Very good example, right? Let's say you have an infrastructure, you have a cluster of this capacity, and these many jobs are running, and now you are supposed to write a job which will process this amount of data. You are doing these kind of transformation in your Spark application. Now you need to explain how many executors you will use, what amount of memory you will provide to them, how many cores you will be using, right? So these are something which is obviously related to the optimization part. And also this is something, the core in-depth understanding of the architecture of these frameworks will help you in your design rounds as well, because there, if you have a choice between 2-3 frameworks, based on their functionalities, you can do a benchmarking, and based on your use case, you can suggest the interviewer that this framework is something which is best fit for my use case. So make sure to deep dive into it. Just don't only focus on the coding part, like how to code the things in this Spark, and that will definitely something I don't feel relevant. The fourth important understanding, only theoretical knowledge, no practical hands-on. This is also a very common mistake I made, and I learned that lesson in 2018 itself. So I was interviewing for the 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 for the data engineer role, and at that time I had no experience with Hive, right? So what I did, I tried to learn all the interview questions related to Hive, right? Whatever was there, I tried to mug up most of the things, and I was successful in that. But in my last round with the vice president of the data engineering, and in that interview, what actually happened, he literally asked me a few really amazing and practical questions related to Hive, and also to write the queries, right? Specific queries for that. And since I just mug up the thing on the theoretical basis, definitely I was not even able to write a single word for the Hive query, means that typical query he asked, and all kind of optimizations you were looking for. So that was the horrible mistake I made, and he taught me that lesson. Like theoretical knowledge will help you in some extent, but the practical knowledge is something which is gonna be deciding factor for anyone. So make sure whatever you are learning, even a small component, try to do a hands-on, be it the very smaller project, or let's say you try to set up that framework in your local and worked on very smaller data set, but at least you learned it how to practically apply it. So that is the important part. Fifth mistake is less understanding of optimizing and fine-tuning the distributed computation application. So same thing I was explaining in the third point as well, but here I will elaborate it more. So optimization is something, and fine-tuning any problem statement is something which is a very common practice, and it will be part of your day-to-day activities, and one of the most important interview questions as well. Nowadays, let's say in the interviews, if you are expecting that interviewer will ask me what is RDD, what is lineage graph in Spark, now this is not going to be followed by the interviewers. They are looking for a practical understanding, so they will judge your technicality, that how practically you have used these frameworks. Do you know about the optimizations, how you can fine tune the problem, be it any query in the MySQL database, right? How you are fine tuning it, and similarly how you are storing your data in a NoSQL database. Similarly, how you are optimizing the runtime of your existing Spark application. All the best practices you should definitely know. So apart from the theoretical part, right, this is the core focus area you need to work on. Sixth worst mistake is less understanding about your current projects and previous projects. This is also one of the mistake actually I made as well, and I have seen people doing it very frequently. So in your resume, let's say you have mentioned 2-3 projects, 1-2 projects from your past companies and 1-2 projects from your current company, right? So before appearing into the interviews, right, it is definitely a good practice if you go through with all your past projects, because after clearing those starting technical rounds, in your design rounds, and even your hiring manager rounds, and in your bar raiser rounds, the interviewers will actually focus on your past projects as well. This is a very common question. They will ask you that please pick any past projects you have worked on, try to explain everything about it, starting from the problem statement, what kind of tech stack did you use, what was the architecture, what was the data scale, what was your contribution, right? How did you resolve that particular problem use case, how did it help your organization, and what did you actually achieve. So if you just mention those projects and not even revising the things again, and not going through with it again and again in order to explain the interviewers, then during the interview, I'm honestly speaking, you won't be able to explain your current project and past project, and that will definitely put a very negative impact, because interviewer will think that you have just randomly mentioned these projects in your resume because you don't even know the complete ins and outs of that particular project. And honestly speaking, this round is something which is very critical. So if you are able to explain your project in a very well manner, right, and interviewer find it very interesting, then you can even clear that round, and even interviewer won't be interested to ask his own questions, right? Let's say he would have thought for any design question for you, but he found your project very interesting, and you know everything about it, right? You can express everything. Your entire 45 minutes or 60 minutes will be gone in that interactive conversation with the interviewer. And this is the thing I have learned in all good companies, their interviews, be it Google, Uber, Expedia, right? There were definitely one round, at least with the tech lead or the hiring manager, where they were like too much into my projects, and that interactive discussion end up with a very fruitful discussion, and we definitely discuss some really amazing use cases and the tech stack. So that is the beauty of this part, but please make sure you are well prepared with those projects. And the seventh worst mistake is poor designing skills, thought process, and even architecting the things. So again, I'm saying, as soon as you will move to the mid-senior level or the senior level, these design rounds are something which is really important, right? Without even that, you won't be able to crack those interviews. And in these interview rounds, right, let's say you are not good in explaining the things, you are not good in communicating the things, you are not good in conveying your thoughts, right? Then this can be a bottleneck for you in these kind of rounds. So make sure you have a good habit of designing the things on pen, paper, or even let's say the Word doc or any kind of a tool where you can design the things, the boxes, the workflow, and everything. And make sure always, these are the best practices which I have learned from my managers and my leaders. They always taught me that whenever you are explaining the things, anyone outside your team, treat them as an external person or non-tech person who don't even know anything about your content, your project. So your designing skills should be very, very apt, so that anything which you are designing, which you are drawing, which you are architecting, it is easy to understand, right? That's the quality. You will learn it by the time. But if you are following these best practices from the very beginning, right, good hands-on on designing the things, again on pen paper, pointing out, highlighting the important steps and important process boxes, and similarly using any tool, okay, that would be really helpful, because your design rounds are deciding factors for your interviews. Now talking about 8th worst mistake, and that is also something very crucial, and that mistake is less experience or less understanding of failover scenarios in your system, right? So this is again something related to the design interviews. So let's say you design any pipeline, you presented your idea, but you are not skilled enough to think any failover scenario. And failover scenario is not necessarily every time related to the tech stack or any technology. It can be related to the data, it can be related to the business as well. So your thoughts should always be aligned into that direction whenever you are building any design, right? Building any architecture pipeline. Make sure you are covering all the failover scenarios, that where your pipeline will get failed, how you gonna resolve it, and if you're taking any assumption, what is that, right? Try to explain each and everything. But understanding of those failover scenarios is very much important, because once you are done with your design in the interview rounds, next question from the interviewer will be that how you are going to take care of this failure scenario. And if you haven't thought about it and you even didn't talk about it, that means your design is not a perfect design. It didn't cover the failover scenarios. So again, that understanding is something which will come with the experience when you will work with multiple kind of data domains and different pipelines, design architectures. So you will get to know that what could be the failure points, what could be the challenges with particular data pipeline, be it the batch data pipeline, be it the real-time data streaming or event driven pipeline. So just build that understanding as well. And the 9th worst mistake is the less experience or lack of data domain understanding. And honestly speaking, probably I shouldn't have put it on the 9th number. I should have put it just after first or second point, because this is something, right, which is really crucial. And I will tell you why, in which round this data domain understanding is very much important. So again, first thing, it will be important in your design interviews, because when interviewer will ask you about your product or what kind of project you work in your past companies and in your current company, then you need to explain that what kind of data even you are working on, what was the scale of it, what was the business matrices, what was the use case you are trying to solve. If you even don't know about your data in depth, like what you are trying to solve, then this is the bad practice, right? That means you just worked on the coding part, you didn't even understand the business, you didn't even ask anyone that why we are trying to do this, why we are trying to create this pipeline, what kind of data we are going to consume. So this is something which is very much important. And honestly speaking, as a data engineer, when you will be working in good companies, right, so 30-40% time in the beginning of your project you will be devoting in the data analysis and requirement gathering, because this is very crucial part of it. And without even understanding the business or data domain, if you are building a data pipeline, I would again call it as a bad practice, and this will be your worst interview mistakes as well, because you won't be able to explain anything. And not talking about important interview round, that is the data warehouse design and the data modeling design. So if you don't understand the business, you don't understand the data, so even let's say the interviewer asks you a very practical interview question related to data warehouse design. Let's say design a data warehouse for e-commerce application, design a data warehouse for the COVID vaccination slot booking application. Okay, so these are something very practical. So if you are not able to imagine the things practically and not able to understand and imagine the products within your head and don't have enriched information about the data domains, then also this is something which will be a worst mistake of your interviews, and you won't be able to crack those rounds. Now talking about the 10th, or you can say the last worst interview mistake, is that not preparing yourself for the behavioral rounds. So what we actually think and what's our general perception nowadays, that cracking the hiring manager round or bar raiser round or behavioral round or team fitment round will be very easy, because there won't be any technical question, there won't be any coding question, SQL question, designing question, data warehousing question. If you are also aligned with the same perception, then you are making a very big mistake, because cracking these behavioral rounds, hiring manager round, is the actual tough part of your whole interview process. Because right there, they will try to observe you, right? They will try to look at your past, how you behaved in your past companies, what was your relationship, even you made multiple switches, then what was the reason for that. If you are not well prepared for the behavioral rounds, right, then this is something like which will be really horrible. You cracked 4 or 5 technical rounds, and at the end, in the team fitment round, you are getting rejected. That is the worst feeling. I can definitely remember those days when I got rejected with these kind of rounds, because I had no idea that how to even perform in the behavioral rounds. Then slowly, gradually, I learned these things from the interviewers and based on the feedbacks from the HR. So I worked on those part, how to even express ourselves during these kind of interview rounds, and how to think positively, because they will give you some very hypothetical situations, and there you have to be positive, you have to be diplomatic with your answers as well. So positive mindset, positive attitude, and most importantly, preparing yourself for the behavioral rounds, hiring manager rounds, is also something which is very important. And most of us don't focus in that direction, because what we think technical understanding is good enough to crack all the interviews. So I hope now you can clearly understand what were those top 10 worst interview mistakes that someone can make in the interviews for the data engineer role. So if you are also someone who made these kind of mistakes in your interviews, so please again feel free to put it in the comment section, and in which company that happened and what was the reason of getting rejected. Those points will be really helpful, because audience can learn from your past experiences, and it will be helpful for them to understand what not to do in the interviews. So yes, that was I had for you guys in this video. I'm pretty sure you would have found it informative based on my practical experience. If yes, then make sure to like this video in big numbers and share with your fellow friends who are preparing for their interviews. And again, if you're watching any of my video for the very first time, then make sure to hit the subscribe button, smash it, and press the notification icon. I will see you guys in the next week with another amazing informative video related to data or data engineering. Till then, just stay safe, stay home, take care of yourself and your family too.